Hi all, my name is Mark Skelsey. I'm the Acting Media and Communications Lead for Willoughby City Council with responsibility for community engagement. I'm joined tonight by Angela Casey on my left, who's the Council's Culture and Leisure Manager, and welcome everyone to our information webinar for the Northbridge Oval Extended Weekend Hours trial. So you can see there the agenda on the screen, and I just thought it's probably important in the first instance to outline what tonight is about. The purpose of the event tonight is for the Council to outline information as to how the trial of extended weekend hours at Northbridge Oval will take place, including to respond to questions. So it's an information largely based event. It's probably also important to clarify what tonight is not about. It's not intended that tonight will be to debate about the merits of the trial itself, and its potential benefits and impacts. And there's quite a good reason for that. That's because the trial actually hasn't commenced as yet. We've purposely done this event ahead of the trial commencing. We'd also prefer that tonight is not a broad-ranging discussion about general sports ground management issues. What we're really hoping to do is to get an understanding out there about how the trial will be conducted and answer questions about that to inform the engagement process, which will be taking place over the next few weeks. I think I saw there on the screen, we've got two councillors present, Moratelli and McCullough, and we welcome you very much to this information webinar. So I'll just briefly talk about the engagement approach tonight. As you can see there with the agenda, we're going to have a presentation with some information. We're going to have a Q&A session following that presentation. That's either going to be questions that can be asked verbally speaking, or they can actually be lodged in the Q&A style chat function, which you should be able to see on your screen. Currently, everyone is on mute. However, when the Q&A session begins, we will be asking people to raise their hands. Then I will call your name, and then you'll be taken off mute, and there'll be a slight 2 or 3 second delay, and then the question can be asked. I'll reiterate that again later in the night. The presentation and the Q&A session will be recorded and placed online, so keep that in mind. And of course, we ask that everyone is respectful when they're making comments tonight. Now, I'm just going to hand across to Angela, who's going to talk about the trial itself.
Thanks, Mark. So I guess the question we've got to start off there is why is there a trial of these extended hours at Northbridge Oval? On the 23rd of May, Council resolved to trial extended weekend hours for football at the Oval. And the decision, which was made by our elected representatives, was really in response to increased demands for access to sporting facilities. So this trial of additional hours was seen as a way of seeing what the impact would be, both for the users of the Oval, but also for the residents if those hours were extended. So as I said, that decision was made by Council, by our elected councillors here at Willoughby, and the meeting minutes and also a webcast from that meeting, they're available on Council's website if anyone would like to get some more information about how that decision was made. Okay, so in terms of the details of the trial, it commences this Saturday, the 2nd of July, and it will go through till Sunday, the 28th of August. And during that trial period, Northbridge Oval will be used by Northern Suburbs Football Association on Saturdays, and that will be between 8 AM and 9 PM. The current hours of use on a Saturday are 8 till 7. So you can see we've got a 2-hour extension there in the evening. And on a Sunday, Northbridge Football Club will be using the Oval between 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. And the current hours are 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. So you can see there's an extended hour, 1 hour earlier in the morning, and then also 1 hour later in the evening. The current rest day arrangement for one Sunday a month, that's going to remain through the trial period. And I'd like to confirm that that trial day is the 31st of July in August and the 28th of August. So that final day of the trial is actually a rest day at Northbridge Oval. Okay, so onto the community engagement objectives. So it's really important for Council that we're providing this opportunity to assess the perspectives of a range of stakeholders on the trial process. And we really want to understand those perspectives, both in terms of the potential benefits and also the impact that any impacts that the additional hours may have. It's our intention to provide a safe and conflict-free environment for everybody to give their feedback on the trial. And at the end of the trial, the trial will be used to inform a report that's going to be considered at the September Council meeting. Okay, so it was important for us that the trial reached all the key stakeholders involved in the use of the Oval. So nearby residents are obviously a really important key stakeholder for us, and Council sent out over 500 letters to local residents, and these were posted out back on the 17th of June. We've also got some organisations there listed as key stakeholders, so Northbridge Golf Club, the Sea Scouts, and also Northbridge Progress Association, and they were notified about the trial on the 21st of June. The two hirers of the Oval that will benefit from the increased hours. So that's Northern Suburbs Football Association and also Northbridge Football Club. And we confirmed the details of the trial with both those, with the association and the club back on the 14th of June. So I guess we feel from Council's perspective, we've engaged with the key stakeholders in a variety of ways and within a good time. So there was lead-in before the trial began.
So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the actual community engagement process. As most people are probably aware, we've created an online engagement page. You can see the URL on the screen there, and that was advertised in the letters and the various ways that we've promoted this trial. As Angela's indicated, we've advised residents and interested stakeholders by letter or email. The Council has issued a media release. We have sent a newsletter to, I think, more than about 500 Northbridge people who have subscribed to our Have Your Say newsletters on our portal. And we have also said that if parties, and quite broad here, want further one-on-one briefings and meetings to discuss aspects of the trial, we are more than welcome to accommodate that. And I don't believe we've received any requests so far. The way we're looking at running the submission process is we're looking at opening the trial for submissions from Monday the 8th of August and running that until Wednesday the 31st of August, which I think is in the order of about 3 days after the actual trial finishes, whilst noting that Angela's just said that final day is going to be a rest day. The reason we've done that is because we felt as though we wanted the trial, we thought it was appropriate that the trial run for a period of time, several weeks, so that everyone could assess how the trial is going before the submission period actually commences. So it's not a complaints process, it's a submissions process. And I would also point out that our aim is to have only one submission per person, which is quite commonplace in these types of engagement processes. And the way that we're approaching it is that we want to get an overall evidence-based arguments about the potential benefits and impacts. We're not seeking to run this as a popularity contest. We want to get into the detail of both sides, potentially, if there are both sides, of this trial. As part of the submission process, we will be asking for people's backgrounds, such as whether they're a resident associated with a club or another stakeholder. We will be asking whether they agree or not agree with the with what they've seen during the trial. I'll just go on to the next. So all people who lodge submissions will be notified when the September Council meeting report is made public, and will be able to request to address the council meeting on this issue. And we do note that all comments may be made available or reproduced in council reports unless this has been requested to not occur. So that's our presentation as of how the trial will proceed, but we're sure that people may have questions. So we'll just move into the Q&A section. So we've got one question there from Councillor McCullough. Yes, of course, we can send that through. In fact, what we may do there is we may actually post that letter onto our Have Your Say page so that everyone can see it, but we'll separately, so we can do that maybe if we can aim to do that by, say, Monday COB, if people want to return to that page. And separately, we'll send it to yourself and maybe the other Sailors Bay ward councillors. Councillor Moratelli. Can I get back to you on that one, Councillor Moratelli? I may, all councillors, Councillor Greco, yes, no problems. I will just have to consider that as to, can I have a think about that one? But it's a good question. And that the question there is, can people who make submissions have their submissions made public should they wish? In other words, request that they are made public. I would just like to consider that further. Councillor McCullough, I've received some submissions in opposition to the trial already. Can I send it somewhere? My advice would be that you need to advise, I presume their constituents, that they need to wait until the 8th of August, and then they should actually lodge that with our system. It makes it a lot easier when they're all lodged within our system to better analyse it in future. But at the end of this presentation, we do have Angela's contact details. And if there's a real desire to send it somewhere at the moment, that's where it should probably go. I'm just going to check now as well. I'm just going to ask, we've only got a reasonably small number of people on the call. I'm going to ask if anyone would like to ask a verbal question. And if so, to put their hands up. After they put their hands up, I will call the name, and then I would just ask for the person to wait 2 to 3 seconds before speaking. So, Councillor McCullough, we'll just unmute you.
Hello.
We can hear you.
Okay, great. And thanks a million for putting tonight on. Yeah, and it's great to be able to verbalise the question. I just got to think how I asked the question. And I've just had a blank, so sorry. Continue on if you can. I know what I want to say. I just got to work out how do I ask it.
Well, I'm happy to infill.
Yeah.
And I do notice that you've asked another question about, will we have a central communication point? Well, the central communication point, without dunking my learned colleague in it too much, is Miss Casey to my left.
Oh, great. And sorry, I figured out what the question is that I'm trying to ask. And it is in relation to, I guess, communication. And as I've heard from a couple of people who are opposed to it, as I've been actively speaking to, some of the residents that are, that have reached out direct to me. I've met with a few of them, but they're hearing some information now. I don't know if they're making it up themselves or if they're hearing it from, council or any of the councillors, that one of the things that they're hearing is that the trial has already started. And there was a couple of other things that are, sort of wildly kind of inaccurate. So I guess my question is, how can we, I guess, control the narrative, or, so that we don't have, I don't think the councils would be out there, saying things or whatever, but how do we basically just ensure that it doesn't go from a teacup to a storm kind of thing? With the communication and the message and all that stuff.
Well, I think if you hear things such as that, first of all, it's us knowing about it. So that's a really good start, and that may be passed tonight. I mean, we have channels in terms of social media that we could actually deal with incorrect information. We could choose, although we probably would be reluctant to, we could choose to send another letter, because that's a big undertaking. Or we could choose to send a newsletter to all our Northbridge subscribers. So there are various ways, or we could put a Q&A on the website addressing any information that's circulating that's incorrect. So we have a wide variety of mechanisms. The important thing is for us to know about them.
Yeah, and I'd also say that just on a practical level, particularly the additional hours on Saturday evening, they're obviously after dark. Now council controls when the lights come on at Northbridge Oval, so there isn't any way that Northbridge Oval was used last Saturday night for additional hours because the lights weren't on. So I think sometimes there are rumours in the community about things like this, but definitely the trial's starting this weekend. It didn't start. It hasn't started yet.
And do you think would it be practical, like if John or Hugh or myself or Anna or any of the councils get approached for comment, or somebody, asks us all these things about it, so that we're all kind of on the same page? Or do you think is it practical to direct them back to, like, as you say, the council's website, or, some area, so that we're all not, talking and giving out, 12 different pieces of, the wrong information type of thing? Instead of engaging with them with long emails and,
Yeah, I'm very happy for you to provide my contact details, Councillor McCullough. I've already spoken to a number of residents, so that's fine for them to speak with me if they've got concerns.
Oh, great. Because then I think that might eliminate the, back and forth on emails, or he said, she said, or it kind of takes a little bit of the emotion out of it, I suppose.
Okay, thank you. I also acknowledge I missed Councillor Greco. I did mention briefly before. Also acknowledge her presence as one of our councillors here tonight. We might move to Mr. Hunter. We'll just take you off mute in a second.
Hello, can you hear me?
Mr. Hunter, you're on the so to speak.
Can you hear me? Yeah, yep. I just wanted to make a comment. If people think the trial has already started, to me, that's saying that the impact of playing games there is obviously having very little impact on them. If they think there's games on when there's not, they can't be really getting much impact when there are games on, if that makes sense.
Yep, I understand your point.
If you know what I'm saying, like if you're saying, oh, the trial's already started, but it actually didn't, and Ms. Casey confirmed that, so people aren't even noticing when they think there's a game on because someone told them, not because they actually saw it or they noticed cars or anything like that. So just as a comment, it seems to me that based on that, I could draw a line thinking that when there are games on, there isn't actually much impact on people because they don't really know when they're on or not.
Yep. Okay. We will take that as a comment, Mr. Hunter. I think Councillor McCullough's still got his hand up, but I suspect he's had his question. There we go. So I don't think we've got any other questions to manage. We've got a couple we've got on notice, so it could be relatively short tonight. So I'm just going to give it, Councillor McCullough. Yes. So we're just having a bit of difficulty getting you off unmute.
Oh, sorry. Is that better?
Yes, that's. Oh, we can hear.
Sorry. So one of the key or common themes that I'm hearing from 3 or 4 of the residents that are in the vicinity of the Oval is that their parking is infringed upon pretty much every match day by people parking across the driveway and making it dangerous for them to enter and exit their driveway, etc. And also they eliminating their ability to park outside their own house if they have visitors. And I'm just wondering, now this is a bit of a thought bubble. I haven't broached this, with any of the residents or with the council yet, but would we ever consider offering them permit types of parking arrangements, for that side of the street for certain hours or whatever, so that they have access to it, I suppose, essentially 24/7 or whatever?
I think that's probably more of a question for Council's traffic team, Councillor McCullough, and it could be something that is suggested through the responses we receive to the trial. I suppose, just back to Mark's point at the beginning, the purpose of the trial is to see what the impact is and to get people's feedback on that. So I suppose we're not wanting to preempt the trial before it starts. If that's an existing issue, then again, happy for you to suggest, the residents that are suggesting something like that as a solution, to contact me so we can keep a note of it.
Yep, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to feel a bit of dead time here at the moment just to see if we get anyone else, because I don't want to be too preemptive, but I don't seem to have any other comments. So look, on that basis, I'm going to just move to the final slide, which, Jason, I can't quite see at the moment. So here we go. So just to reiterate, with the trial periods for 8 weeks from the Saturday, July to Sunday, the 28th of August, submissions from the 8th of August to Wednesday, the 31st of August. A report on the trial will be considered at the council meeting on the 19th of September, and the decision outcome and next steps communicated to stakeholders. I would imagine that's both before and after the council meeting. And I'm just going to hand across to Angela for the next 2 points on this slide.
Thanks, Mark. We really just wanted to be clear that this is a trial only, as we've been communicating through this presentation. And at the end of the trial, it won't be a case of any permanent changes being made to the usage hours. The usage hours are set out in Council's synthetic sports ground management plan. And in order to make permanent changes to the hours at Northbridge Oval, we would need to review that policy in its entirety, and potentially some other council policies as well. So that synthetic sports ground management plan is our overarching plan, which manages our 4 synthetic grounds, including the hours of use at those. So really just setting some expectations there that it won't be when this the outcome of the trial is reported in September that there would be permanent changes made to the hours. That would be sort of the start of the process rather than the point at which permanent changes are made.
So with that in mind, I'm just going to check if there's any further questions on that aspect, given that's an additional point just before we I'll take it. No, good. So On that, yes, we do. We've got a question from Councillor Greco. We'll just unmute your microphone now. Is that us, Jason? Or? Okay, I think, Councillor Greco, you need to accept the unmute. Oh, there we go. We've got it.
Very sorry.
It's all right.
Tech is not one of my things. I just I was hoping that we can just give a little bit more explanation as to why the hours aren't automatically sort of become permanent, and why it's necessary to have this trial, and that the trial does not mean the permanent hours. Just to give the community a bit more understanding that we can't just change hours just like that, because they are covered by like a management plan. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Greco. Yeah, that's correct. The last point of the last slide we had up there just explained that point in some more detail. So Council has a synthetic sports ground management plan, which was adopted by Council back in 2018. And what that plan does is it sets out the hours of use at each of the 4 synthetic fields that we have within the Willoughby Council area. So if we wanted to change anything within that document, there's a process that we would go through just for good practice, and that would mean adapting or making changes to that policy, and then putting that whole policy out on public exhibition for comment, and then it would come back to Council to be adopted. So you're correct, there's a bit of a process before Council can change a policy or a management plan, if we're going to be, I guess, true to really good practice in terms of community engagement. Does that help clarify, Councillor Greco?
Yes.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay. I think that's it. I think that's it. So look, we thank everyone for the questions. As we've indicated, we'll be trying to get this online pretty quickly, hopefully by tomorrow if we can, and that way it'll be available to a much broader audience as well who may want to look at it. So we thank everyone for their participation tonight. Thank you.